Want a kiss?
Welcome to the Experimental Film Podcast with your host, Ken Hess.
Teaching a parakeet to talk is fun, but the old method took too much time and patience. This record is specially designed to teach any healthy, normal parakeet to talk by using a scientific new method that is acknowledged to be far superior. Because a carefully trained voice, specially chosen for excellence in clarity and diction, repeats over and 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 over the same words, the same phrase, in a manner that most parakeets are most likely to imitate.
Check experimentalfilm.info for information, interviews, and episodes.
For the next few seconds, this record will be silent.
This podcast is dedicated exclusively to experimental film and its makers.
Welcome, everyone, to Season 3, Episode 1 of the Experimental Film Podcast. Today's guest is Fabrizio Federico. Fabrizio is a UK-based experimental filmmaker who has some unique perspectives on filmmaking. Let's find out what those are. Fabrizio, welcome to the Experimental Film Podcast.
Great to be here, Ken. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Oh, well, I got into making films after I left America. So once I got back to the UK, I remember watching all these experimental films when I was really young in my teenage years. Things like The Last Movie by Dennis Hopper. That was the one that really made me want to get out there and start making films on low budgets. Most of my films barely cost anything. You know, I could make a film for like $50 in a day. And I've done that before. I've made feature films in a day on like children's cameras and, you know, CCTV cameras and things like that. So that's what I find so exciting about experimental cinema is there's no rules. You can just go out there, make something really quickly, even without a script. I never use scripts either. I'll go on the streets and I'll find someone that I think looks really interesting. And I'll be like, yeah, you want to be in a movie? Just get them really excited. And I'll literally, you know, have all their life come out on screen. I'm really good at getting people to open up about their lives and using it into a movie or a scene. And I just kind of take it from there. I mean, God, I've got so many films that have inspired me over the years. Have you ever seen The Great Rock and Roll Swindle about the Sex Pistols?
You know, it's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, I saw it a long time ago. I used to watch a lot of those music-oriented films like The Song Remains the Same, you know, about Led Zeppelin, and I saw a Doors movie. So, yeah, I used to really be into those rockumentaries, I guess they are.
Oh, I love those. I find those more entertaining than like feature films these days, actually. The last film we actually shot, you remember that bit in The Song Remains the Same with Jimmy Page where he climbs to the top of the mountain and he's doing like a Aleister Crowley spell? We actually filmed a movie called The Confessions of Aleister Crowley at the house where Jimmy Page used to live. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really surreal being in that garden because you just look and that's like the cliff that Jimmy Page climbed up. And there's some bad vibes in that house still, even though it burnt down a few years back because kids went up there and, you know, they draw pentagrams on the floor and do spells and things like that. And I guess in one night, you know, someone had an accident with like some alcohol and the whole house went up in flames, unfortunately. But it's got a very, very strong power still, especially if you're there at night. It's spooky being there at nighttime.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I used to really be into that sort of thing. I was really into stories about Aleister Crowley and how one night I can't remember, I think he steps out. I mean, not everyone will know what this is, but he stepped outside the circle a little bit or broke the circle somehow. And apparently some demon almost killed him.
Yeah, that's right. It's the Abramelin spell. He couldn't finish it because it was like a 6-month spell. And he couldn't leave the house, and he just couldn't do it anymore. The spirits just got too much for him, and he had to step outside and just run away from the house, basically. But a lot of people in the area, because it's right near Loch Ness, Loch Ness monsters right there, and people would not talk about that house. You know, there's still a big stigma about it, all the locals, and they wouldn't be on film talking about it either. So I love things like that. I've met wizards before, and like people that do voodoo. Because I think Kenneth Anger was into stuff like that, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Let's say a lot of when cinema first came out, a lot of people were really scared of it. You know, they saw it as like losing your soul, and nobody wanted to go near it. It's like alchemy in a way, isn't it? Being on screen, and you last forever. It's like you become eternal if you're in a movie, and yeah, people are very scared of it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. I think the Native Americans used to think that when someone took their photograph or painted a portrait of them, that it stole their soul. And so, they uh, sometimes would, uh, you know, harm the person because they thought
Yeah.
it stole their soul. So, it was kind of interesting what people believe about photography and painting and now films. But
Mm.
I want to ask you, how would you classify your work? Now, to me, it seems sort of like the so-called French New Wave. Like you said, you don't have a script or anything, you just go out and do it. How would you classify your work?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a collectivist, and I take from all these. I know all about different film, film waves that's happened and film movements, and I've just collected, French New Wave, British New Wave, a lot of the stuff that came out of Greece, like Attenberg and things like that, and Dogma '95, and I just put it all together, and I made my own manifesto called Pink Eight, and which turned into a bit of a film movement itself called Misrule Cinema. So that was really popular in England, and some people in Mexico made films because I had my own film festival at one stage called Straight Jacket. So all these people would be inspired by the manifesto, and then they'd send their own Mistral films to us, and we used to just screen them on YouTube. So yeah, very improvisational, experimental, very non-linear, non-narrative. Um, almost not document. It's almost like feature documentaries in a way because they're not exactly a documentary because there's an idea. I'd take a topic. So one film would be about money, another film would be about sex, another film would be about schizophrenia, and I'd get all these people who I thought would kind of like be able to navigate through that theme, and a film would come out of it magically. So the film would always make itself. That's what was so great. Anybody could do it. Why waste your time on making shorts? You could actually make a feature doing this type of thing. And I'd use loads of. I actually call it pick a mix, where I'd do like montage, vary speed, jump cuts. I'd even use like subliminal messages. So like a lot of rock bands used to do that. I'd do that in the film. So I'd take like a Charles Manson or like a Jim Jones quote, and I'd reverse it, and I'd put it throughout the film. Do little tricks like that on people. So yeah, it's just I don't know, absurdism almost.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm into is absurdism. A lot of people have classified my films as that, but go into a little bit more depth about the Pink Eight Manifesto. I think that's how we connected in the first place. Is I saw something of yours in a Facebook post, and you had something about the Pink Eight Manifesto, and I went and read it, and was like, this is really cool. I want to know more about it. So if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah. At one point, everyone kept telling me, "Oh, to learn film, you have to take a course. You have to take a course." So I enlisted in like a quick, week course. And I just remember the lecturer constantly saying, you have to do this, you have to do that, just giving me all these rules all the time and saying like, oh, you can't make a feature film for less than 100 grand, like saying all these types of things. So my attitude was like, well, you, I could do whatever I want. There's no rules in cinema. It's not a very old art form if you think about it. So technically there aren't any rules. There's certain rules if you want to get it onto television or connect with a mainstream audience. But I wanted something that was brand new. So I figured I'd take my whole philosophy and like condense it. So my first rule was film school is poison. Don't worry about going to film school. If you can press play on a camera, you can make a movie. So, and from there, I took it one step further. Don't show the cast the script. Don't even have a cast of professionals. Just pick random people. I'm not read it for a while, so I can't remember the rest of the rules. But they were like the main. They distilled the main message. Really, is just, don't bother making a script. Don't bother. The film can make itself. As long as you've got a theme and a topic, the movie will get made, and if you're passionate enough about that theme, just let it make itself. I think Andy Warhol, his early films were like that. It's just press play, let the cast do what they want, and you got a film, really.
Yeah, that's true. I like that a lot. It's kind of I can't remember the name of the movement, but anyway, with the Pink Ape Manifesto, were you trying to start a new film movement, or did you actually start a new film movement with this?
Oh yeah, I wanted to because I'd not heard of a new film movement for a while. Everyone kept going on about Dogma this, Dogma that. Pink Ape is way more hardcore than Dogma, so I wanted to take it as cinema a step further. So I made a film manifesto. Then I just advertised it. I'd make leaflets and go to universities and just pass them out. I'd go to concerts and I'd put my movies. This is when I made my first film was 2011. So I'd literally just make all these DVDs and just put them on tables at bars and concerts and things like that. So I'd put a little note saying, "Don't worry about you upload it onto YouTube or Vimeo or whatever. I don't care." I didn't want to make money off the films. I just wanted to spread the message, and create a new generation gap in cinema. And it caught on. I ended up doing like interviews in Sight and Sound and Film International, and it just kind of blew up. And that's what I'm really proud of. That's being able to inspire like a whole new generation of filmmakers to go out there. And I mean, now it's TikTok. TikTok is kind of like the same thing that I was doing, really. Just having all these little flashes of video coming at you. Like, so if you watch one of my films, especially the first one, Black Biscuit, it's just film coming in all directions at you, all different types of I wouldn't use one camera. I'd use like about 50 cameras just to have different looks. And, you'd have audio coming out, all this like electronic audio and sound. The soundtrack could be really, it'd have like sitars and rock music and classical and rap, and it'd have all these different like types of music in as well. Have you ever seen the film Bad Timing by Nicholas Roeg?
I have not. No.
Oh, you should watch it. I'll send you a link at some point. It's a fantastic film. But it's kind of like that. So there'd be like so many different styles of music, and there'd be jump cuts, and 1 minute it'd be the future, next minute it'd be the past, and you just wouldn't know where you are. Your head would be spinning by the end of the movie, and that's kind of the effect that I wanted. And I just basically took it from there.
Yeah, let's talk about Black Biscuit for a minute. It has some interesting backstory to it. Could you tell us about that?
I had a right laugh making that film. For anyone out there who's not made a feature film, your first feature film, your head would be spinning. Honestly, there's so many crazy things that happen to you. The most nuts thing that ever happened was we had this guy who literally just got out of jail for killing someone. And I didn't know this when I met him, because I met him on the street. And I was like, "Oh, do you want to be in a film?" And then the next day he didn't show up. So I was like, "Oh, fair enough, easy come, easy go." Then one day he knocked on my door early in the morning, and he was there. And he's like, "Oh, when am I going to shoot?" I'm like, "Oh, shit, you missed it, it was yesterday." And he just kept showing up. And sometimes I'd notice him following me. And then other times he'd show up when we were filming, even though I'd never given him the address. So, so he was stalking me for a bit. In the end, he never even appeared in the film, thank God, because I just had a bad vibe about him. Little things like that. And, even just to raise the money, I was like donating blood, and I was doing life modeling. So like nude life modeling for art classes, things like that. I spent about a year filming it because, I wasn't filming every day like most film projects. So it was just whenever we got inspiration, or I came across someone who wanted to be in the film that I thought, fit the theme. So it just went on. And then I spent about a year. I just did loads of little experiments as well. So when I'm editing, I'd take LSD and I'd edit while I was stoned on LSD, just to see where the narrative took me. And God, I don't know if you ever took that stuff, but editing, it just blows your mind, because there's no rules whatsoever, and you're just experimenting non-stop. And I'd edit blindfolded as well, and I put myself on this really weird diet of what was it? yogurts and marijuana. So I was just living on that for a while. Just that was my diet for a bit. So I kind of went off the rails a bit, but I'm glad I did it. You have to push yourself when you're making movies.
That's very true. That's really funny. I like that a lot. It's kind of kind of really 1960s avant-garde type filmmaking. Especially the enhanced realities, I guess you get from LSD and so on. Um,
Mm.
so, aside from that, you've dealt with quite a bit of controversy because of your films, especially one called Milkman and that whole experience. Could you tell us about that?
Oh God, that was a mess. That was. So uh, the theme was of a milkman who was. So I got into reading about the 1960s and the Kool-Aid acid trips and things like that. That man, the Grateful Dead used to do it as well, I guess, and Ken Casey and just like Jack Kerouac and all those guys. And their idea was, oh, let's just spike the government, let's just spike everybody, and everybody can be stoned, and have this beautiful moment all together. We'd all be on the same threshold for a little bit. So my idea was to have a movie where a milkman went around and spiked people with LSD. And one day, a real milkman actually ran into us while we were filming, and he happened to tell his company, and it just got further and further up. And they basically put like a subpoena on me, saying that you can't do this, that we're going to call the police if you actually go ahead and do this. I mean, that was when I was 27 when I was wanting to make this film. So looking back on it, it wasn't one of my best ideas. The film just never got made. It just got abandoned. We shot about 45% of the film. But I don't know what statute of limitations is for things like that, because we actually did get a couple of letters saying that they'd bring us to court. So it just kind of got left on the shelf, really. But once statute of limitations that runs out, I reckon I'm going to do it. I'll put it out there, even if it's just in the 45-minute version.
Yeah, you should. In fact, I would love to see that because I don't really think someone can enforce something like that. I mean, you're making fiction basically, so I don't know what the rules are in England, so I can't say, but I know that in the U.S. it's a little bit looser probably. You can pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, you still might get sued, but you never know. So,
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass over here because I don't know what it's like in America. 'Cause I lived in Boston for a time being, and from 1995 to 2005, then I got deported. So I don't remember seeing too many CCTV cameras. So it's a bit like Big Brother over here, where they can constantly watch you and they can see where you're going. I've been stopped before because we shoot our films on the streets, without any paperwork, and that I don't really bother with shit like that. And we've been stopped before, and they've confiscated our footage off us. So we've had problems, a bit like Ed Wood. I think Ed Wood used to do things like that, but in England it's just easier, and they can keep tabs on you really easily over here, and they can see what you're doing at all times. So, it's not as cool as in America, especially if you want to shoot in like a city and like things like that. Same, it's a bit backwards. I mean, in America, I think marijuana is legal in most states, isn't it? But over here, it's not,
in
You can
a
get,
few, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, they're a bit backwards over here. As I said, it's a bit like 1984. They've even got a TV show called Big Brother over here, where
Right.
they watch people 24/7. So yeah, it's a bit tricky if you want to do certain things, especially film on the streets.
Yeah, well, maybe you should get a visa or something and come back over here and make Milkman over here, unless you just want to wait for the statute of limitations to run out. But you've also run into some controversy over your film Pregnant. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've had problems with every film. Let's see. We shot some scenes with some anarchists. And one of the scenes was, I suggested, oh, would it be great to find somewhere that, was on fire to shoot inside a house that was on fire. And they ended up setting a building on fire, which kind of got out of control. It was a venue where they used to have concerts. I think the Smiths used to play there quite often. And it got set on fire, and there was quite a lot of problems involving that. They actually both went to jail for a little while, not too long, but that was another nightmare. So we had to pretend that we weren't even filming anything. We just said it was an accident, a cigarette fell on the floor, that type of shit. Over here in England, they have carpets everywhere. So it was 1980s carpets, and you throw a cigarette on the floor, goes up really quick over there. So we just said it was the reason. But that was the big thing. Then what did we do? We filmed in this village down south where there was a power plant, and it was like being in the village of the damned. Everybody in the whole village was blonde. And I think Derek Jarman's famous house was there, his famous yellow house. And we kept seeing all these little jellyfish washing up on the beach. And because of the power plant, a lot of the jellyfish had like 8 eyes. So it was a very like radioactive little village down south.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I love that about when you're making a film. You just get into all these crazy adventures that you can't plan it. You have to have a really open mind when you're making movies. That's why I love talking to filmmakers. They're my people.
Yeah, when you said everybody there was blonde, if I had made that association, I think I would have. Of course, when I was young, I was blonde too, but I would have gone. It's just a little strange that everyone here is blonde. I think I'm going to leave now.
Yeah. I'm the opposite. I kind of push the situation to its limit almost to see how far it goes. I get a bit turned on by things like that. So yeah, I mean, this Aleister Crowley film. Oh God, we were filmed. We had a lot of weird things happen to us. Our passports kept going missing. Some of the footage just wiped itself out randomly one day, and then the worst was it was a really sunny day, and we were driving up this mountain in this shitty Ford that, it wasn't prepared for like a snowstorm. And out of nowhere, this massive snowstorm just came out of nowhere. And we're lucky we didn't go off one of the cliffs. It was a miracle we actually got down. But then as soon as we got down to the bottom of the mountain, it was like nothing ever happened. There was no snow anywhere. It was just up where we were filming. So we had a lot of like bad luck when we were making that movie. And the footage is still a bit wonky. It's still pixelated, and I'm trying to make it work somehow, but it's been very difficult. We finished it in January 2020, and it's still a bit, I'm waiting for it to get a bit better. They're working on it in America, actually, because 2 guys who came over, they're working on it right now. But I love all that danger involved in movies.
Yeah, it seems like you get into a bit of trouble whenever you make a movie. Do you go seeking that, or does it just kind of happen to you organically?
Bit of both. I've had that my whole life, though. I mean, the reason we ended up, because I've lived in England, then we moved to Italy. And the reason we moved to Italy was because I almost died in a fire. And this is one thing that always stuck in my, when they have these little arguments about films not influencing children, I think they do influence, because I was watching Godzilla. And, Godzilla's all about fire, isn't it? So I watched Godzilla, and after that, I was only like 5 years old, but I started playing with matches, and our whole house set fire. So luckily, I'm alive. It's a miracle I'm alive. And strange enough, the only things in the house that didn't burn down was myself, who my dad rescued. So I'll always be happy about that. I owe my life. And a photo of my grandfather who died recently, and his portrait was not damaged at all by the fire. It was very strange. So, yeah, I've got a devil and an angel on my shoulders.
Yeah,
It sounds like rock stars seem to have all the fun with that type of thing. I've never heard of a filmmaker that kind of got picked up, and then people were like, oh, no, we have to stop this person from committing suicide. I swear all this type of stuff I'm doing is giving me brain damage throughout the years. You can ask my girl.
I mean, or succeed exceedingly, which was crazy because, they really worked hard and tried to make it work and tried to compensate for their shortcomings. And it was unbelievably successful. And he kind of went a little bit nuts because of it. And because I don't think he wanted it to work. But that was really fun because I really, I really liked Reginald Perrin and Benny Hill and all those guys.
I'm actually really impressed that you know who Reginald Perrin is.
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't think you. Yeah, I didn't think you'd know him, but yeah, I just love it. He walks into the sea and just pretends
yeah.
that he's killed himself. Yeah, uh, the Manic Street Preachers guitarist did that, and to this day, people still don't know if he's dead or alive. Richie James just disappeared. Great lyricist as well. So yeah, they found his car at like a suicide spot in Wales, and yeah, they've never seen him since. Never found any body or anything. But he
Wow.
talked about doing things like that. Same with Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison used to drop little clues about that, saying about running to Africa. What was that film that earlier? You said something about a Doors movie. Are you talking about the music documentary that they
Yeah,
made?
yeah. It's when,
Was it?
I remember one of the scenes in it. He was standing on stage and he was going, "Hey, Mr. Lightman, turn down the lights." He kept trying for like 5 minutes before he did this song. He kept trying to get the light man to turn down the lights. And the guy never did it.
Yeah, that's a Feast of Friends. I love that film. They
Yeah.
they re-released it after like 40 years, and yeah, that's an incredible movie because Jim Morrison was a filmmaker.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he actually made one experimental film called Highway, and it's just spelled HWY. You should see it. It's on YouTube. They've still not released it. Like it's a bootleg basically. But he would have been a terrific filmmaker if he'd carried on. But yeah, he just made this one. I think it's only like 30 minutes long, and yeah, it's about him going out to the desert and he hitchhikes and he kills the person that picks him up hitchhiking, and then very simple film. Then he just drives into Los Angeles, goes out on the town, and I think at the end he goes onto a building and pisses off the rooftop, and that's how it ends. It's just, yeah, it's bizarre, but I love it. It's
Yeah.
one of the first experimental films I actually saw, and yeah, that was one of the things that got me into it. I love the Doors; they're my favorite band.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, I
Mhm.
used to really love The Doors, and like I said, I saw that film, and it doesn't surprise me that he was an experimental filmmaker because he was really an intelligent guy. I mean, probably genius,
Mm.
a few times
But,
over.
oh
But
yeah, he's very well read, but everyone always because he became an alcoholic, everyone kind of wrote him off. But oh yeah, he introduced so many new concepts into pop music, like the Oedipus complex. I mean, you know.
You're listening to the Experimental Film Podcast with Ken Hess. And now, back to the show.
yeah, well, I think a lot of, and I hate to say this because I don't want to start anybody on alcohol or drugs, but I think a lot of times people who are very, very intelligent have to drink or do drugs to bring themselves down to kind of a normal level because they just think on a different plane. And I think maybe Jim Morrison was like that. I mean, his lyrics, are very ethereal at times, and he's a super intelligent guy. And I'm not surprised that he, you know, became an alcoholic or got on drugs or whatever because I think he just was kind of beyond normal humanity. So
Yeah, very self-destructive. A lot of artists are self-destructive, though, aren't they? We
yeah,
can't help ourselves. We just like to push boundaries, and it just, I mean, we can't control ourselves, and these things become habits, unfortunately. But I don't know. You do get moments of sheer bliss that you can never explain, and it's great trying to make that into either cinema or music. Kind of, it's the shortcut to instead of taking drugs. You can listen to music or watch movies and get the same feeling. And it's poetry, isn't it? It's like cinema poetry.
yeah. I've described films as the dreams that I want you to see.
Yeah,
They're my
yeah,
dreams, and that's kind of the thing. When I make a film, especially a narrative film, not necessarily an experimental film, but sometimes both. But I see the whole thing play out in my head. I don't know if other filmmakers are that way or not. I've never really asked, but I see the whole thing. I mean, I see the characters speaking to each other, and I see the whole dynamic happen kind of like I'm watching the film myself, and then I just have to write it down and film it. Sometimes it takes a different swing during filmmaking, and sometimes it's fairly true. Does that happen to you as well?
Yeah, you're quite lucky if you've had a whole film like that. I've had scenes where I've literally, there's certain scenes in my movies where they've literally come from dreams, and I've literally just woken up, wrote it down, get the concept down before I forget it, and then you just go on, make it happen basically and make it a reality. But no, never a complete movie. I think the only film where I knew straight away what exactly was going to do was Teddy Bears Live Forever, and that was like a really simple film that I made. I just because most of my films had loads of cast members in it. This one I just had one girl in the whole cast, and she had multiple personality disorders. So in a way, it was kind of working with more than one person. But and she actually really had this as well. And every single day, you didn't know who you were going to film, which was really strange because it was the same person, but it'd be a different person every day. It's tough to work in that situation, but yeah, that was the only time I kind of knew exactly where the film was going to go. Every other film is just, you'd think you'd want to end it there, and then you get another idea and you want to make it keep going, and I don't know. I find it hard to stop sometimes. When's going to be the ending of film? I could easily make a 16-hour film if I wanted to, so it's easy for me to kind of make 2-hour films, things like that. That's why I find short films a bit too restrictive for me. But I've made a couple of short films, so that was it. Blink Chop Socky. That's quite a short film that I enjoyed making.
Yeah. In fact, Andy Warhol made an 8-hour-long film called Empire, and all he did was film, and I don't know how he did it because, you only get about 3 minutes worth of film when you film with a 16 millimeter camera or an 8 millimeter. So
Yeah.
he filmed the Empire State Building for 8 hours. It was daytime, it got dark, and it's just slightly out of focus. I guess he filmed it from his apartment or something, but that's all it is. For 8 hours is the Empire State Building going through different times of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you mean by commit cinema suicide?
Well, that was more for like Jet Hollywood. It's like I just wanted to see how far you could take a concept, I guess. I mean, I've never really wanted to commit suicide, but if there was something I'd die for, it would be cinema. It's strange. Sometimes when I'm making movies, I feel almost invincible. So you end up taking, you do things that you wouldn't really do if there wasn't a camera there. Like walk on buildings and, just little things like that. I guess that's the best way to explain it, is just taking it to the limit. So I guess Werner Herzog was a bit like that when he made his movies. I think he put the whole cast in danger sometimes, especially like Fitzgerald and things like that. What's the craziest thing you've ever done while making the movie?
Oh gosh. I can't think of anything terribly crazy. I think maybe I got mad at a security guard. I told him, I think I told him basically to, as you would say in England, bugger off. So I told him to basically get lost because I was doing a drone pass through this. It was downtown in the town I used to live in. I was doing a drone pass through this. I don't know what you would call it. It's almost like an alcove of trees, and the drone came out on the other end. Of course, I'm sitting there watching it on my cell phone, and controlling it, and I buzz it through, but it passes really close to a bunch of people, and they're just watching it. And then he comes walking down the way, and I'm bringing my drone back to myself, and then I land it in front of me, and I pick it up and I put it in my backpack, and I see him walking the whole way. I don't know if he knows that I can see him or what, but I could see him walking toward me. He goes, you can't use that drone here. I go, oh, well, I wish you had told me before I did it. So, basically I had a few other choice things to say. I mean, what's he going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I hate people like that. I really, yeah. I mean, I know the world's gone through a lot of changes recently, but I don't think the world's come out better. In some ways it is because it's gotten more tolerant, but in other ways it's like everyone's got an opinion, and it's just too much noise sometimes, don't you think? And too many too much red tape, and I literally wish people would just bugger off sometimes. But the thing is, when you're making a film, everybody gets super uptight, don't they? And like, what are you going to do with it? It's like, well, what's the fucking difference? Yeah, everything's online anyway now, isn't it? No one's got any. There's no. Where's the line? Everybody makes movies of themselves. They put photos on Facebook, so there's no privacy anyway. So as long as you're not doing anything bad in front of the camera, what does it matter if someone's taking a photo or filming you? I really don't. I can't comprehend that type of thought. So, and sometimes I'll be filming. They won't be the main focus in the scene, but they'll turn around and they'll be like far off in the background as well. It's like, what do you think is going to happen? You're in the background of a scene. No one's actually watching. I think people have just got too big of egos these days, and they actually think it's going to affect them somehow if their photo or their image appears online. It's a very strange world these days. You either get people who really seek it out, or the people who turn away from it, but they're hypocritical because they make videos of themselves and post it on Facebook. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've got a great opinion and stuff like that as well. But
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't know what it's like there, but here it's if you are in a public place, you don't have any expectation of privacy. So you can't, if someone says, "Hey, don't take my picture," it's like, well, then don't be here because
and then turn your back.
Yeah, I'm taking pictures or I'm filming. If you don't want to be in it, then, don't be in it. But you can't tell me not to film you because you have no expectation of privacy. And I've had this argument with a couple of people, and it's usually gone okay because I'm not rude with them, but I just tell them, look, I'm sorry. You're in public. You have no expectation of privacy. I'm not going to delete it. And, seriously, the way I film with a shallow depth of field, you're going to be blurry. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But how arrogant are they? Like, nobody knows who they are. It's not like they're a celebrity or anything like that. And it's like, you're not famous. It's like, you're not the Pope or something like that. Nobody cares. Like, nobody will be able to find you because they don't know your name.
Yeah,
so they can't
exactly.
Google you. They can't. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, it's like a weird arrogance that they got that, people are actually going to like give a shit who they are in the background. Yeah, it's exhausting, isn't it, almost? That's like the worst part of making films sometimes is just dealing with the general public if you actually make films the way we do.
Yeah. You know what? That sounds like a great idea for a film. I'd like to see you film that. You actually, whether it's staged or not, you have people really get mad at you about filming them. That would be really fun to make a whole kind of a documentary of arrogance.
I'd relish that.
Yeah,
I'd relish that so much, actually.
That would be good.
Yeah.
So there's your next film.
My friend Paul would enjoy that as well because he likes pissing people off and he likes getting reactions out of people. He likes shaking people up.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I do the same exact thing. Not necessarily on film, but just kind of in general.
It's just I get off on reactions. I don't know if that's because with filmmakers, we just like seeing human nature and how people would react in certain situations.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that would make a good film, or actually even a series of films.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a better idea than what I was spitballing with a load of people the other day, and I think the best idea we came with is like, let's recreate the Zapruder film.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, can you imagine?
maybe in miniature or with animals, even that would be kind of fun,
Yeah. I don't know if you ever seen a movie Crash. Remember that the J. Ballard book that they made into a movie, where all these people recreate famous crashes, like when James Dean crashed. And
oh yeah.
James Mansfield, that type of vibe. But yeah, we were talking about the Zapruder film and how it's probably the purest film. So I mean, in a way, it's kind of a snuff film as well, isn't it? If you think it's a snuff, it's like the most mainstream snuff film, and it's on YouTube, and it's this guy getting his head blown off, and God knows what the family. But it's almost like as pure cinema as you can imagine, and it wasn't staged either. It's just complete, I don't know, chance. That's what I like in films, when chance things happen,
right.
Non-scripted. It's just magic to me.
But can you imagine being one of his children and seeing your dad get killed every year again, and people are commenting on it, and news programs, because every year around November 23rd, they show that
Yeah.
Zapruder film, and there's another film that's actually available that is shot from the other side. I mean, can you imagine seeing your father murdered over and over again? That's really that's quite devastating, I think. It would really tend to work on your head. Either that or you just have to hide away from it and wouldn't be
It's
able to, visualize it.
Yeah, I think you just become so numb if you're that. I mean, the Kennedys are as famous as you can imagine, really, a dynasty.
Yeah.
So they must be so numb inside to us, and they're literally one of the most cursed families in history. I mean, God, I've never heard of a family other than the royal family. The royal family are certainly cursed as well. They've had
Yeah.
so many scandalous things happen this year. It's
Yeah.
just. Yeah, it just shows you what, money means fuck all when it comes to karma.
That's true. It's very true.
Mm.
So, who is your favorite filmmaker? If you had to say this person is my favorite filmmaker, who is it?
Oh, difficult. I go through phases, honestly, Ken. The guy who made me fall in love with movies, to the point where I wanted to make him, was Dennis Hopper. As I said, the last movie just really, it blew my mind. I'd never seen a film like this before, and the fact there was a major motion picture, it's so experimental, and it's just, every time I watch it, I pick up something new. So you could say Dennis Hopper, Donald Cammell. I love Donald Cammell as well. Performance and Wild Side.
Too. But he always hung out with those guys down in the Ludlow and Skid Row areas. I can't remember the Bowery. Yeah, the Bowery, and all those areas in New York where all the art people hung out.
Yeah, he comes from that back. He's been in, he's done the headshots, the Andy Warhol headshots, where you just literally film you close up on the face. He's a photographer. I mean, Easy Rider. Easy Rider is technically an experimental film.
Oh
There's
yeah.
loads of trippy things happening in that movie. I like Vincent Gallo as well. I don't know if you've seen The Brown Bunny
No.
or Buffalo 66. Have you seen that?
No. I don't think
That's
so.
he's a great artist. His career got completely ruined when he made Brown Bunny. He showed it at Cannes and he got booed, and ever since then his career has never been the same. But Brown Bunny is terrific. By Vincent Gallo. Lucas Moodysson. I love A Hole in My Heart. That's just like watching witchcraft on screen. It's like a bunch of friends who decide to make a porno, and it just goes wrong. And it's a great movie. It's dark, but it's also got moments of bliss in it as well. It's all over the place. He's a great filmmaker. He's done loads of cool things. Lilia Forever, he did that as well. I think shit. Harmony Korine, I love his early films. I don't really care about what he's been doing since. But Gummo and Julian Donkey Boy is my favourite film of Harmony Korine. I think Sylvester Stallone even loves that movie, which I was surprised about. I didn't know Sylvester Stallone watched experimental films.
Well, you never know. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I don't know. I've got so many films that I'll tell you what, a film I watched recently that was really cool. Very rare film. I think it was Brazilian. It's called Killed the Family and Went to the Movies. And I think it came out in 1969. Can't remember the name of the filmmaker. Julio something. Killed the Family, went to the movies. And that's literally what the film is. He kills his family and then he goes to the movies. Yeah, I always love films like that where the title literally tells you what the whole film is about.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Parade of Roses. You ever seen that?
I just saw that the other day. Yes.
Fantastic, isn't it?
It's about the transsexual or transgender people in Japan, right?
Yeah. And that inspired Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
He literally ripped off certain scenes from that movie and transposed them into I don't know. It kind of brings you a smile. It's a kind of a dark film, but at the same time, you find yourself smiling at certain scenes. They're cheeky.
Yeah. That I just recently saw that. Yeah, I've been discovering more and more experimental films because I've got a subscription to the Criterion Channel,
Yeah,
and I
love that.
watch all the time. I mean, like
Mm,
almost every day, I watch something new on there. Agnes Varda is one of my favorites.
yeah,
Of course, a lot of people love Kurosawa. There's a bunch of Kurosawa films on there. Um, Gosh, I don't know.
love Kurosawa.
There's some great animation films, but I really got into Jacques Tati
Oh,
last year. You know,
yeah. Mm.
Mon Uncle.
I've not seen that one. I've seen Parade. Seen that one?
Yeah,
It's one of his later films, I think.
I think I've seen that one. Gosh, I've seen so many now. I tend to forget the titles, but once I go back into the Criterion Channel and start looking around, oh, I've seen that. I've seen that. Kind of running out now, but yeah, I liked, of course, Jean-Luc Godard, Jacques Tati, and I really love that French New Wave, that kind of, like we were talking
Uh,
about originally. So,
yeah, Clara from 9 to 5. That's fantastic. Yeah, there's too many movies. I wish we'd lived longer, but there's too many good movies to watch in a whole lifetime, really, isn't there?
yeah.
There's always a new one that you can. I saw Drive. Have you heard of Drive? He said Jack Nicholson directed it, and I didn't even know Jack Nicholson directed any movies. But
I
oh,
don't.
it's a terrific film. That came out in 1970, and it's not something you think Jack Nicholson would make a movie like this, but it's just really experimental. It's avant-garde. The story is very mainstream, but the way it's filmed is just so clever.
I'll have to
Like
check
there's one
that out.
guy. Oh, it's. I think it might be on YouTube, but you'll definitely find it for free online. He's got really great ideas, the shots and all that type of thing. I think he made it while he was doing Carnal Knowledge, so he's very young still when he did it. But God, yeah, there's Man Ray. I love Man Ray
Oh
and
yeah,
Paul Morrissey films, and yeah,
yeah. Man Ray made a lot of great art and films as well. A lot of people don't know that he was a filmmaker, but he definitely was.
yeah, yeah. There's something about those early experimental films, even like Vertov, like Man with a Movie Camera. It's just like it's like they're discovering a new language.
Yeah,
And as I said, imagine discovering a whole new art form, and it's like you're just playing with it. You can do anything you wanted, and they did so many. Even like Vertov, I don't think he gets enough credit. As I don't know if he even made any more movies after that film. I have no idea.
yeah. I'm not sure myself. So, can you tell us what are you working on now?
Um, well, trying to put this Confessions of Aleister Crowley together, but as I said, we've obviously been cursed by Aleister Crowley, and it's been 2 years, and we still not managed to film it. Honestly, I think he's literally put a curse on us for doing this, and but I will finish it at some point. We don't know when, but we'll get it together, and that'll be the next film. Yeah, so the last film I made was who is Blink Chop Socky, who was a man who literally walks around with a movie camera on his head, a big paper mache movie camera, and
Right.
just goes on adventures. Yeah, Blimp Chop Socky.
I love that.
Yeah,
I would like to see, in fact, the adventures of Blink Chopsaki would be really, or Blimp, I'm sorry, Blimp Chopsaki. That would be really interesting to see the continuing adventures of, have him, go into the middle of the city and, try and interact with people. I think that would be really clever to see that. I think you might even get picked up by Netflix or something to actually have a series on this.
yeah. Well, I'm actually trying to get one of my films on Netflix at the moment. I've been picked up by New Line Cinema, New Line Video, who are a
Oh, wow.
distribution company. So yeah, they're working on getting it. Teddy Bears Live Forever onto Netflix, which would be great.
I love that one. Yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah, bring a bit of there's not much experimental cinema on Netflix, really, is there? So
No,
we're going to invade Netflix, and
that's good. We
yeah,
need to.
yeah, we're going to suck it to them. Yeah, so that's the thing that I'm concentrating on at the moment, and I play guitar, so I'm in a band called Paranoid Alice, and this other band called Mao. And Mao is more experimental, but Paranoid Alice, we've just released an album, and it's all like reverse sounds. So it sounds a bit like the Byrds, that song 8 Miles High.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
got that, yeah, it's kind of got that feel to it. So yeah, this year it's a very musical year, so I'm basically working on sounds. But you know, you never know what's going to happen next. Another movie might get made, it might not. Who knows?
True. I mean, just kind of go with the flow, I guess. So, do you have a website or other ways for the audience to check out your work?
Yeah, websites Fabrizio Federico. Google it or cut them up first or second or something like that. Yeah, the movies are all for free on YouTube. As I said, I love just putting the films out there and letting people see them and just seeing where they take them. I don't want to charge people.
Right.
I want the films to be pure, and I want people to actually enjoy them. I don't want them hidden. Like, for example, there's so many films out there, but they're private, so you need a password to get into and actually watch the goddamn film.
Right.
I don't get filmmakers who don't want their films to be shown. I really do not get that. So they'll keep them private, so people won't actually be able to watch them. It blows my mind. So yeah, they're out there, and you can watch them for free, and just be inspired and go out there and just create another generation gap. Now, I mean, I've had my time. I've done it, and now I want another generation to take cinema even further.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm working things now too. Is I'm trying to actually get people involved and get them interested, especially younger people, trying to get them
Yeah.
into it. In fact, you can view 5 or 6 of my films on Vimeo. So, if you're into Vimeo, check out some of mine. I have landscape up there. I have I love country music. I have Dirt up there, which Dirt is my latest film. I love that one. It's less than 5 minutes long, and it's really cool. My oldest son loves it. He said, "Hey, you remind me of someone who I would get your name mixed up with, Federico Fellini."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, it's very Fellini-esque." I go, "Really? I didn't get that, but yeah, I mean, I'll take it for sure."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Satirical right there.
yeah. Are you involved in any local film groups or meetups or other film-related activities where you work with other people?
Not at the moment. I do a lot of things. So there's a Facebook group online called Experimental Film Society, and I just encourage people to share movies on there, experimental films, and I like giving people a platform like yourself. Just give them a platform, especially new filmmakers. Get their work out there. Just show the world. I really enjoy that type of thing. I've kind of took a back seat to it. I've kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it's the COVID thing, but I've not really been as sociable as I usually am. I'm a bit busy being a father at the moment as well. So I've got a new baby. So
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
yes. Oh, thanks. He's only 6 months old, so I've been busy being a father. So I've not been the social butterfly that I usually am. So what's the word? I've become a bit of a recluse.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
yeah.
very Aleister Crowley of you.
Yeah, I'm going through this is my recluse stage. See how long it lasts.
Well,
Stages never last too long, do they?
well, I'll tell you what happens is when you start a family, same thing happened to me. You know, oh gosh, I made a short film in 2006 or 7 and then kind of put it down for several years and then picked it back up. I mean, but you get so tied up with your kids, their full-time work and, if you work and then your kids and, taking care of everything for them, once they start school, you have a little bit more time, but, it's just crazy how much of a time vacuum I guess they are. I mean, it's worth it. I'm not saying it's not, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's really, it consumes your entire life. And, there was a gap of, I don't know, maybe 10 or more years there where I didn't do anything. I wrote ideas, I wrote scripts and things in my spare time, but, just getting out there and doing it because filmmaking, I don't think a lot of people understand. While it's relatively an easy thing to do, it takes a lot of effort to get there,
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of energy, doesn't it?
yeah, it does take a lot of energy. But anyway, I'm sorry, is there something else?
Yeah, I was going to say I might write a book next.
Oh yeah.
I think that's my. I've not got an idea what to write about yet, but yeah, I might write a book next. That'll be my. I've never done that, so
Well, I've
yeah,
got a
that'll be my
topic
next.
for you. You've
Go on.
actually, in this interview, you have created your own topic, guerrilla filmmaking. In fact, you could even riff on Reginald Perrin. You could do the fall and rise of guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah,
How
and
about
take
that?
all those experiment. Oh, definitely, and take all those experimental film concepts, but add it to like the literature. So kind of like use cut up technique, but with kind of like do like a William Burroughs thing, but take it one step further. Use loads of jump cuts and I don't know tape loops, but add it to like novels. Create like a whole new concept for the novel. Maybe do something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm super glad I met you. I think I might have met you through the Experimental Film Society on Facebook. I can't recall,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
anyway, I'm really happy that we connected. And your next project, I'd love to have you back on.
yeah, absolutely. You're very punk rock, so yeah, you're definitely a friend of mine now.
Yeah, yeah, that is the truth. I love. In fact, your film Anarchy in the UK is actually a film by, I mean, a song by the Sex Pistols. So it's like I could just hear it in my head the whole time.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us for this first episode of season 3 of the Experimental Film Podcast. Our guest today was experimental filmmaker Fabrizio Federico. Please contact me if you'd like to schedule an interview, sponsor the podcast, point me to some cool experimental films, or connect me to other experimental filmmakers. And we'll see you next time.
If you would like to sponsor a podcast or schedule an interview, send an email to ken@experimentalfilm.info. Thanks for listening to the Experimental Film Podcast with Ken Hess.